You're listening to the Empowering Process podcast with your host, Gail Kraft. Listen as she holds frank discussions around how your purpose, being present, and trusting your power impacts your life. Whether you're an entrepreneur, leader, or developing your vision, you'll find wisdom and insights you can utilize right now. Welcome your host, Gail Kraft.
Hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast, and I have with me this amazing woman I've had a chance to meet, and it is Nichole Majik. Yes, Majik, okay? And Nicole is an empowerment alchemist. She's the founder of Nichole Majik, LLC. With her diverse background, which I'm going to get into that in 1 second, she is able to really address whatever comes up between her and her clients or whomever she's working with. She's got a background in biology and chemistry, metaphysics and finance. She's experienced with neurolinguistic programming and cognitive behavior therapy. So you can see she brings a diverse skill set to her leaders, to her entrepreneurs, to her executives who feel like they're stuck in so many areas of her life. But she's also an aura reader. She didn't learn, that is who she is. And that also helps in her knowing that you're telling the truth or not, knowing what's really going on in your life, right? And so Nicole, welcome. We're going to talk about whatever comes to our mind today, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Gail. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, this is going to be exciting. So we talked a little bit about what we would talk about, and there's so much. So we're going to touch on facing yourself being the biggest fear. And I will caveat that with a short snippet for me. And I have to be honest, I spent years very successful in corporate America because I spent years running from me and towards whatever, right? And so I was running towards success and away from me, right? And I used to say, if they only knew who I really was, they would hate me. If they only knew what was going on in my mind, if they only knew what I knew, right? And it's pretty sad because every successful goal that I achieved certainly didn't satisfy me. I would sit there and go, well, now what? And I thought, well, I need to create another goal. And I would achieve it. And they go, well, now what? And then now what? And until the day that I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't like what I saw, I said, that was need to be fixed. That's the day that I stopped chasing and started exploring, which is completely different. So let's talk about why I was chasing some of those things, what I was looking for, right? And the types of things that you talk about and work with your clients on.
Oh my goodness, they're just in those few short sentences, it's packed with all kinds of stuff to really take a look at, analyze, grow from, right? It's not about, even though in that moment or in that period of time, there was a piece of it that was about judgment for you. There's no judgment here, right? When we look at this to grow and expand, we're stepping outside of the judgment zone because it doesn't exist. Judgment does not exist when you truly know yourself.
There is no judgment. And living without judgment, oh my God, that's a whole other podcast we can talk about, right? Because that is something that, guys, if you can achieve this, and you can if you work with the right coach, your life will just change completely. Hello, kitty.
This is Tony. He gets nosy. So he usually pops in when he really likes who's on. So kudos. And hello, everybody out there. This is Tony Cat. He's my Bengal. Okay, so when we talk about this stuff, and so there's a few things in there, and I think that we need to talk about the 3 things that people really want to bring into balance the most. And I talk about these 3 things a lot because every single person that is living and breathing out there needs this. And the first one is safety and security. We all want to feel safe and secure. If we don't, we're in survival mode. And we're not growing when we're in survival mode, right? So we can't be in that space. But when we do feel safe and secure, what happens? Our confidence is there, where we have courage to be who we are. That's where we feel safe to be ourselves, which leads me to the second part. Number 2 is we all want approval. We want to feel like we belong because we want to belong. We want to be respected. We want to be loved and desired. So when we do feel like we belong, guess what happens? We feel connected and we're able to be vulnerable. We are our fearless, authentic self, and you can be that because you're not being judged. But most people don't feel that way. We don't feel as connected to other people because sometimes it's because we don't feel safe and secure to be ourselves around others because of something that has happened to us. So it perpetuates this feeling of, I don't belong. They won't like me if they knew who I was. That whole part that you were talking about, if they only knew who I really was, they would hate me. They wouldn't like me. I would be outcast. So we put up these walls and we feel very confused about how to behave around others. We distrust other people. And then what really tends to happen is we withdraw and we isolate ourselves. So it keeps that process going. The third part is really wanting to feel empowered. And when we don't, we want to control everything. And that's where that whole is, if I can't gain it, I will try to control it because I don't feel like I have that sense of being in that space, that I have the power to make things happen for me. I will instead try to control other people because I feel like it's outside of my ability. Ooh. That really hits in the heart, right? And in the gut too, because when we do feel empowered, you then trust yourself. You trust yourself to make not only good decisions for yourself, but all the people that are around you. And then you begin to empower others to work together as a unit, whether it doesn't matter where it is, the family, the workplace, whatever groups that you're involved in, anything, you foster this ability for everybody else to then feel safe and secure, be part of something, and be empowered. So it brings a whole level of, it's a cultural piece that to bring that level of balance into a group of people. It takes a lot of work within the self to bring that out because you have to, what were we talking about? Face yourself. You have to face yourself, your fears, your past, and then
And love yourself regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're all here to learn and grow and experience something. So it doesn't matter what you've experienced in the past, you get to create what you experience in the future by being present.
Exactly. So all of those words, all of those things that you were talking about, I mean, I'm like having flashbacks. I mean, I used to be proud to say that I'm a control freak. I mean, that's not a thing to, right? I can control the situation, right? Let me hold on to it tighter and maybe it won't go away. And I see the dove choking the dove to death. Right? Instead of letting the thing fly and hope it comes back. And when it does, it's
I love you so much.
I'm going to kill you, right? And that's what happens, right? And then we wonder what the heck happened and why am I not happy? And clients that come to me, they come to me with, I've achieved so much, I've done all of the same story as mine, and why do I feel unfulfilled? Why did I lose my mojo? Well, they never had their mojo to begin with, right? So and it's all of these things, and most of us go through it. So don't, if you're feeling any of these and you can relate to any of this, it's not something to be ashamed of, because we all have traumas that we've experienced in our lives, and we all have had to learn how to manage those traumas, and some of us learned not such effective tools. Right. And it's when we realize that there are new tools out there, or different tools, right, that we can absolutely get, then we start to change. Right. And that's where you're talking about taking control of of the moment and living in the moment.
Yes.
So I have this perception, if you will, that it's very difficult to live in the moment, because the minute that I realize I'm in the moment is history. Right. And so it's almost like chasing the moment when I try to find the moment. And so I use a different word for myself, and it's just like, just be.
Yes.
Just be, and let it flow, and don't try to make it happen. Don't try to control it. Don't try to judge it, and just be okay and trust that the universe has your back.
It's
Right.
all about what you're experiencing in the present.
Right.
So when you just be and tap into it, when you're present, you're curious, you're discovering, you're observing what's happening and what you're feeling. So you can move through in a continuous motion, being present by, asking yourself, it doesn't matter. We take a sip, right? How does the cup feel against your lips? And as the liquid touches your lips, what does it taste like? What does it feel like? And as you swallow it, is there a scent that you're breathing into, or whatever, all those things, feeling it just going down your gullet into your stomach, you can feel that stuff. And when you're just paying attention to what is happening within your body, is there a thought that comes in that says, ooh, that tastes good, I'd like to have some more? And what does that feel like? Is that, this is some African tea that I'm drinking, so it's like, it's very mild, it feels good, I love it. It's cooling down, so it's not as hot as I like it to be, but it still tastes good and is satisfying for me. And when you just think about what is happening, you become aware of even more, so you can be even more present.
Right. And I actually use that as I don't want to use the word weight loss, because if you lose it, there's a chance you can find it. I don't like shedding, because if you're shedding, that means you can regrow it. Right. So I call it making healthy choices for your body. Right. So I always make healthy choices for my body. And in the process of making healthy choices for my body, if I decide I'm going to have dinner and I sit in front of the TV and I watch TV and have dinner, I do not experience the food at all. And I'm probably still hungry when I'm done.
Yeah, because you forget that you even ate it, because you did it so subconsciously that you didn't have that stimulation of being present. Right. And enjoying it, and the satisfaction that your body is looking for on all those different levels. I get it. And everybody out there in the audience gets it too, because they're all saying, yeah, that's happened to me. Oh, did I eat all that
already? Right. What, did we have dinner? So, yes, we did. In fact, I did the dishes. It's that long ago. Right. But when you sit down, so when I raised my children, we did sit down. We had candles for dinner every night. Right. And sat down and had dinner, because I felt that was the only time all of us can talk about what happened during the day. Right. And the kids would be laughing, they would be competing, they would take all of the condiments and build a wall between. I mean, just right. So much fun. And I got to enjoy the dynamics of the family as well as the meal. Right. And as a single person now, it's just me. To sit down at the table, I don't think to do that lately, because this year my word is minimize. And so that, right. So that also means minimize my food intake, make sure that what I eat, minimize the junk food, right? That means I have to pay attention to the food that I eat. So sometimes, even though I might be alone, I take my water, I take my meal, I put a napkin, I set the table, the little table, right? And I sit down and I have my meal.
Do you light your candle?
I do have candles sometimes, yes. Actually, and sometimes I buy myself flowers for the table. right?
There's nothing wrong with that. And it adds another dimension to that. And, that's self-care.
Yeah.
People don't realize that what exactly is self-care. They think, oh, I reward myself with a massage or a pedicure, a manicure, whatever. But our routines and the things that we do for ourselves to reset, relax, and reboot, those are all self-care. Even something as simple as lighting a candle at dinner to bring your awareness to yourself, or buying a flower to put on the table,
Right.
right? Add beauty and show yourself the love that you deserve and the love of the universe, because we're all one. So there's this whole piece that of really being, I put the word conscious in front of everything. When we are consciously eating, conscious communication, conscious leadership, that brings that whole presence into it, instead of all these negative parts that we tend to move to just because that's the programming that's out there that we have.
Well, we're unconscious. I call it conscious choices. So I'm all about, because I love that you use conscious as well. Conscious choices, right? We have learned to live unconsciously. We numb ourselves with TV. We numb ourselves with video games. We numb ourselves, right? So that we can escape whatever it is that we think we want to escape from. And in the escaping, we lose the experience, whether it's painful or we think it's painful or not. Moving through an experience, first of all, you get through it faster. You get to understand it. It's less painful. If you give into it, the resistance is what causes the pain, right? Now, do I want some of these experiences? Like, so I got fired. That was my California experience. And that was when I looked at myself in the mirror, right? And, I had to admit that I was unconsciously in that job because I did not want to be there. So I was not fully present, right? I was totally reactive to my environment and not conscious of my choices, and didn't have what it took to remove myself from a situation that was toxic for me. I stayed. And so the universe got my butt out of there. Thank you. Right?
And that's what happens. If you don't listen, the universe just gets louder and louder and louder. And it's whatever it is that you're creating for yourself. But when it's out of alignment with who you really are, I say when it's out of alignment with your truth, your passion, and your purpose, the universe gets really loud, like a 2-year-old, right? Because it's like, hey, you're not listening to me, mom, hey, child. And what's important to recognize is, when we're talking about conscious and unconscious, I say this all the time, where it's 87% of what we hear, say, think is negative, because that's the programming. It's easier to gravitate and say, oh, this isn't right, instead of, being in a place of bringing that balance. And greater than 90.
So you just brought something. I'm sorry for interrupting. But
no, that's okay.
So I am a gamer. I sit down and I will spend an hour just playing various games, and I do it to just zone out on purpose, right? And then I zone back in. And so you get advertisements, and there's this game that is supposed to be how smart or how old is your brain, right? Right. And it gives you an example, and it gets this person to age 38 and then comes up with failed. And I'm like, how can you fail being 38? How can all right, so if I am 78 and I made it to 38, I'm freaking awesome, right? I didn't fail. Who would download a game that tells you you failed? You just froze, Nicole. Oh my God.
I've noticed that on some games, I must say. Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I have noticed that on some games that when you didn't beat the level, you didn't make it, it's, you failed.
Right? Oh
And
God.
that actually, I have to say, yeah, it's there, and it's very subconscious, that it's in Candy Crush. I do know that. And it will say you failed. So how many levels, how many times does it take for you to pass a level? How many times are you seeing you failed, which is part of the reasoning with what I'm saying here too, is if 87% of what we hear, say, think is negative, and greater than 95% of what we do is subconscious, and the subconscious is 1,000 times more powerful than the conscious. And then we put a little cherry on the top of that it takes 7 positive statements to negate just 1 negative one. Whoo!
We've got our work cut out for us. Yes, yes. But I will tell you, when I played these games, here's what I think. Oh, just like anything I try in life, when it's new to me, I will try it and see that there's another pathway. So I will retry a different approach, and eventually I figure it out. Right? And that's how I look at these games, is that I'm learning different pathways to accomplish a goal. And I always accomplish it. You do eventually always accomplish it. Right? And sometimes
because there are no problems.
Right?
Because there's a solution for everything. So if there's a solution, then there really isn't a problem.
And sometimes when I see the solution, and I do, because I have some very complicated games that I love, I'll be like, I don't know how I saw that. It must have been you, universe. Thank you. I know this 3rd dimensional body didn't see it. You did. Thank you.
And tapping into the subconscious in a way that, you know, we utilize our brains and our brain power and our intuition and all of that. When we pull it all together and use it all together, it's very magical, the things that happen, which also brings us back to what I was saying a second ago about, you know, it might seem like everything is working against you with all of those numbers piled on top of each other. So, you know, it comes down to the typical person spends about 14 minutes consciously through the entire day. But if we flipped all this stuff around and we made these subconscious things that we do that are like the negative limiting beliefs and behaviors and those things that we are doing subconsciously, if we worked at creating something that flipped that into a positive subconscious thought, behavior, action, guess what happens? You've got 95% plus 1,000 times more powerful, all working in your favor.
Right? And
right.
If you did this, so here's an experiment. Wake up, choose a day, and that day is your 2-year-old day. And as a 2-year-old, how would you be putting on your shoes and socks? As a 2-year-old, how would you be eating your breakfast? As a 2-year-old, how would you be playing at life? Right? And if we do this, is the childlike curiosity and approach. I mean, I look at these children that have come into my life with awe at how brilliant they are and how fearless they are and how creative they are, because they don't have the baggage yet. Right? And to work at being parents and not subject them to that, your baggage, is a trick.
Yes.
Is a trick. But it's conscious parenting as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I really feel like we should start, whomever out there has the ability to do this, but we as a collective really should take a look at, because we're in this first 7 years of our life, we're in subconscious mode and just absorbing everything, and we're doing what we're told because that's all we know, right? We're seeing how the people are acting around us. We're taking on the belief systems that are there. But if we were to instill in those first 7 years of life, all positive thoughts, behaviors, and inclusivity and all this stuff, we could wipe out all this BS in no time.
It's insane. I look at my son's children, who are being raised in a very different manner. He and his wife are both engineers. And so as engineers, they're going to approach things in a logical manner, including their marriage. They got together and said, listen, I come from a failed parents, you come from failed parents. Not good odds. What are we going to do to keep it going for the rest of our lives? What's important to us, our children? How do we show that? What's important to us? That we have vacations. How do we show that? They travel 2 or 3 times a year. They're in Tahiti right now.
Ooh.
Yes. Right. They're like, yeah, we were going to go here, we we're going to go there, but with what's going on right now in that part of the world, we're not going to do that. So we grabbed the kids and we're going to Tahiti because they're homeschooling the kids.
Very nice.
Right. And so it gives them the opportunity to do those things and be together. And I see these children of theirs, I'm flabbergasted by their unlimited potential, both of them.
Yes.
Right, both physically. I mean, she was competing, my granddaughter, as a cheerleader and winning at 4. What? Right? Because she wanted to, right? Yeah. So now I think she's doing basketball. She's loving basketball.
Because she wanted to, not because the parent didn't get to live out a certain thing in their life and are forcing that and projecting that onto their child. I love that you said that, because she wanted to. Right. That is so important. And those are the leaders of next generations to come. And those are world leaders, people that can be in that space and be inclusive and non-judgmental and okay with, we have diverse thoughts, feelings, opinions, and everybody has a right to their feelings. Right. This is the thing, as I always tell my clients and people in general, allow yourself to feel. Those are yours. And every emotion that a human can feel is an emotion to be able to feel, because it's your right to feel that way. If something is out of balance, it'll take on a more negative space. It's an alert system to let you know that, hey, something's not right here. Can we fix this ASAP? And then when you're feeling something that's great, embrace that and have more of it, create more of that.
Right. I love this conversation.
No one can argue with how you feel. That's the thing.
And this is the thing about facing yourself, right? Yes. I'm feeling angry about this. I'm not supposed to feel angry. Suppress that. I'm feeling jealous about this. You're not supposed to feel jealous. Suppress that, right? I'm feeling, you don't suppress feeling happy. Maybe some people do suppress feeling. I'm not supposed to be happy about that. Suppress that, right? One of the trainings I do is called the dark side, because we want to look at that, because like you said, it is telling you something that you need to pay attention to, right? Something is not in balance in your experience or in your life or in your health or in you, right? What is not in balance right now? And it's okay to feel that. It's not okay to dump it on someone else. It's okay to own that, right? And this is facing yourself into, I say warts and all. This is me, warts and all.
Yep. Right? I have a question for you, because, and a story. Knowing me as much as you do, or as little as you do, whatever, when you look at me, when you talk to me, how much compassion do I have?
I will tell you anything, well, because I'm open. So is it compassion? Yes. And I'm sure that was learned, right? Right. But I have to be open enough to trust you, vulnerable enough to trust you with my story, And so if I didn't see compassion, if I didn't see caring or truth in your eyes, then my boundaries, not my wall, my boundaries would say, she's not going to hold what I have to say gently in her hands.
Holding
Right?
the space. Love that.
Yeah.
Yes. So the story is, when I was young, right? So I grew up in a very Christian household, right? So, and you mentioned me being able to see auras. I could see energy around people, the colors, their aura. I could see, hear, sense spirits and things like that. And I just knew things that people didn't normally know. And I wasn't supposed to talk about those things because it was very embarrassing, because it wasn't of God. And so there were a lot of things that were said to me in ways that, as that young mind, perception wise, I assigned meaning that I wasn't good enough. I didn't belong. So back to what I said in the beginning, was that sense of belonging. I didn't have that. And then you get confused. How do you act around people that are supposed to be supportive? I don't feel safe and supported.
Right.
And in that little body growing up, it just, things compounded because we try to find the validation to that. Yep, see, like you were saying too. Yep, see, told you, not good enough. You should just keep your mouth shut. So it became that I got very stoic. I suppressed expressing my feelings. I felt them very deeply, but I always felt them alone or stuffed them down. And I wouldn't express them, to the point where suppressing all the negative feelings turned into suppressing all of the positive feelings as well. And I remember this particular story. I don't know if my aunt and uncle will remember this, but they're the ones that I used to think of them as my ideal parents. We always did all the fun stuff. They were my godparents. And so they were, the God-given parents to me, that I could escape my real family, or my immediate family. That's a kid. That's a kid.
And you just froze again.
Well, they took me skiing a lot. And as we got really into skiing together, I don't know if my connection is that good right now, but as we got into skiing together, for Christmas, they gave me a bag, a special bag for my ski stuff, my clothes, my gear, all of that. And I opened it up, and inside I would have a very different world than what was happening outside and what I expressed outside. So as I was opening it, I was opening this thing, and in my head and in my body, I was saying, oh my God, this is so great. Look at this bag. It's all the colors. That's perfect colors. I love these colors. These are my colors. And the rigidity, the ruggedness of the bag. And this is going to last forever. And the size of it, it was a perfect size to carry just my stuff, and it's all mine, right? And I looked at it, and I said, thank you, gave the hugs. And a little while later, my aunt had come up to me and pulled me aside very lovingly and affectionately, and also very seriously. And she said, Nikki, do you love the bag? Do you like what we got you? And I said, yeah, I love it. And she said, are you sure? Because basically saying that she didn't feel like I did, and thought that maybe I just said thank you and I didn't really like it and was disappointed, and she didn't want me to be disappointed. And I said, no, I love it. And that story kept with me all the way to my life right now. I'm turning 47 in a couple of weeks. So it's like that inner world and the outer world, and how different we can be. And just having that awareness of, if we could just be our authentic self, how different would that situation have been then? but how different can every situation be right now? That you don't have to go back and explain yourself, or you don't have to go back and try to rewrite something that you cannot rewrite. If you're just in that space from the get-go, everything wonderful will happen. Even when there's a seemingly negative thing that could take place, it's a disruption in a pattern that no longer suits you. It doesn't support you. So that's why it kind of sloughs off or feels like it's breaking apart. That's supposed to be.
I love the breaking apart now. I love right. And because I'll say, oh, here it comes, right? It happens quickly because I'm anticipating what's changing. I have no idea what's changing, but I will be curious as to what's coming up, right? And why is that coming up now? And where is it originating from? And oh, have I been carrying this all this time? Or well, then I guess it's time to release it, and we're done.
Right.
It's like that fast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's important to really process what you're feeling and allow yourself to go through those things and break those things apart. Get to the root. Why do I feel like I want to hold on to this? Is it actually supporting me, or am I just holding on because it's familiar and I just don't want to let go because that's the program? Same thing with the candid conversation on my aunt's side, asking me. She could have just automatically assumed Nicole hates it. I got something. See, I'm not good enough. I didn't get something that was going to please someone else. And we can perpetuate each other's stuff. But
Right.
We had that candid conversation. No, I love it. Why aren't you? I don't know. I feel like I'm in front of everybody and I don't want to express how I feel because it's always wrong.
Right. And so I would challenge. So I gave you one challenge, which is act like a 2-year-old for a day. So I think I'm going to do that. But another challenge, and this is one I do for myself. We all are judgmental. Or no, we all judge, not necessarily judgmental, because that's how we choose. Do I want to go right or do I want to go left? That's how we choose things in our life. We have to judge whether or not it fits with us. Judgmental, on the other hand, is actually using someone else for you to rise above. Right. And so sometimes I will be judgmental. I will hear my little voice saying it's telling its little tale, but I hear it loudly now. It doesn't whisper. Right. And I'll stop and I'll go, well, take that voice out. What are you talking about? Right. Right. And why are we even holding this conversation? You're wasting my time. Right. Because you are wasting my time. This is not true. It is a story that you're telling. 99.99% of the time, it's not true. It's a story that you're making up. And look at just the facts. And then if it's something that does bother you, someone else's behavior is bothering you, not your business. But if it is something that bothers you, then you need to take care of it yourself.
Yes.
Not expect them to show up the way that you want them to show up. You show up the way that you should be showing up. What a flip.
There's a version of them in you.
Yes.
It may be that particular version that they're expressing, but it could have been a previous version of you that has grown past that. So number one, you can have compassion,
right?
And kindness and understanding, and give the love and support that somebody might need to help make it through that particular phase in their own life. Or you can choose to keep it judgy
or stay judgy and be unhappy.
Away. You can walk away and not deal with it, but you have choices, and depending on the situation, because is it somebody that you love in your life that, you know, maybe it's a good way to explore at what place are you at in relation to that one, right? To that, what's the word that I'm looking for? Not an avatar.
It's dynamic. It's a dynamic. When
the archetype.
right? Oh, that's another thing we could spend hours on is archetypes, right? Right. And what archetype we're all of the archetypes, first of all. We have a major one that we lean towards, but they all come up. I also have a goddess version of the archetypes because we all have all of the goddesses within, right? Yes. And what does that mean? I mean, sometimes we're Venus, but sometimes we're Isis, right? Which is, very strong, not so feminine in Venus, right? So, who are we and who are they when we talk about dynamics with couples or any relationships, a relationship with work, a relationship with friends, relationship with a significant other, relationships, period, right? You're never on the same wavelength at any given moment in time. No. But there is a seesaw that could happen. And sometimes their C may be higher than your saw, right? And then you're going to kind of pass each other, right? In a relationship, the beauty of that is when the other one, I have a friend who articulates this well. He'll say, Gail, let me reach my hand down. You can grab it right now.
And that's the image that I have in my head. Yeah. As we push one person up, and then we grab their hands and we get elevated up, and we're just going up and up and up together.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. And that statement is really one of the things that has changed the direction of my life most recently, right? And my purpose really is this, right? To collaborate, to hold space for people to express themselves, to share, and to work collectively. It's all community. And I want to thank you, Nicole, for being part of my community, to being so open and willing to share your story, some stories, and talk about, taking a look at ourselves and how powerful that can be when we do that. If people want to work with you and want to get to know you even better, how would they do that?
Ooh, they could send me an email or connect with me on social media. And it's my name, Nichole Majik, or Majik LLC on social. And email would be majik@majikllc.com.
Fantastic. And that's MAJIK. So it's Majik. And I want to thank you, everybody, for listening. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. If something came up for you during this conversation, please leave a note for us, and maybe we'll get back together and talk some more about that particular question. If you know someone who maybe could learn from this, share it out. By all means, subscribe, comment, download. Let us know that you like it, because I know I had a blast. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.